Hi guys, Stage Rat here. Hope you're all keeping well. As usual, apologies for the quality of the video. So yes, as you've probably seen from the title, this is my personal ranking of all the Starkid shows, plus the two musicals that the Tin Can Brothers have done. So, quick disclaimer, I think all of these are fantastic. Like, even the worst Starkid effort is kind of objectively good. Also, this is just my personal opinion. I'm very aware that a lot of people probably won't agree with this, but it is just my opinion, and you're perfectly free to disagree with it if you want, and you probably will. Jumping straight in with number 14.
The Starkid Squad. The Starkid Squad. The Starkid Squad. The Starkid Squad.
Overall, I think this was it was kind of a very neat idea, and Brian Rosenthal does deserve a medal for that scene when he's being about 10 different characters. It just felt very slow, and the mystery wasn't that mysterious. I suppose, it may have been the point, because obviously it's based on Scooby-Doo, and the mysteries in that weren't always that mysterious either, but it just all felt a bit slow. And, honestly, if I'm going on a Starkid / Tin Can Brothers binge, this is kind of the one that I'm completely fine just leaving out. That said, I do still enjoy it when I do watch it. It's just, something has to be last. So, number 13. I honestly don't know why I don't love it. It's touching. It's objectively, I think, one of the funniest shows that I think Starkid have done. The music's fantastic. You've got Eric Khan Gale as Sebulba, which is something I never knew I needed.
Chupala tutu anikan, miso wabadi Popeye. A tubadi chumpy wumpy.
There is just something about it that just doesn't feel like Starkid, and it does go beyond, the fact that the band is singing the songs. I can't put my finger on why that is, and it does frustrate me, but it is what it is. One thing I do know I absolutely do hate is Chris Allen doing a Patrick Warburton impression throughout the show, because Annie has some of the most touching moments in the show, and it is very hard to take anything he says seriously when the whole time I'm just thinking about...
So, is everything ready for tonight?
Oh yeah, I thought we'd start off with soup and a light salad, and then see how we feel after that.
Not the dinner. You know.
Oh right, the poison for Cusco. The poison chosen specially to kill Cusco. Cusco's poison. That poison?
Yes, that poison.
Again, I enjoy it when I watch it, but I'm perfectly fine just skipping over it as well. Number 12. I know, but the fact of the matter is it was a show written by university students for university students primarily, most of whom are probably their friends / family, Besides the bad miking and camera work, which isn't exclusive to this show, but I think it is the worst in this show. And it certainly isn't anyone's fault, it is what it is, and it wasn't ever filmed to become a massive internet sensation. So, apart from that, the whole thing does just feel, very in-jokey. in terms of like there were things thrown in that I think were designed purely to get the people they knew would be watching, like their, as I said, their friends, their family, get them to laugh. Number 11.
Say it's quite unlikely the two of us should stick. But I just tell them, hey, it's me and my dick.
First act, one of the best things Starkid has ever done. Second act, one of the worst things Starkid has ever done. Honestly, you can absolutely tell that it is basically a padded out version of what was originally a one act play. Really the only thing that truly saves the show in the second act is Joey's heart, and I absolutely would not get rid of that, or the, you know, section where Joey is being controlled by his heart.
What the fuck?
You're a freak! You're a freak!
No, I'm not. I'm really nice. What? Joey, stop or do something crazy! Eat chocolate!
Get away from me!
Get away! But last night we kissed. That's right! And a kiss is a promise! A kiss that two hearts make!
I wouldn't get rid of either of them for the world. But the second act does go completely off the rails, really, especially in regard to Dick's side plot. I think if you completely got rid of the whole Land of the Dicks thing and the concept of the body parts actually being able to detach from their owners and reattach to new owners and all of that, and you just keep the whole thing as though it's a metaphor, you honestly could have a really good, solid one-act musical. As it is, it just kind of descends into a puddle of just like, what the fuck? And it never really manages to climb back out of it. Number 10.
This is the end. Our time is running out.
This is the end.
Where is our hero now?
This is the end.
He's nowhere to be found.
This is the end
of all the fighting.
This is the end.
The people dying.
This is the end.
There's no trying to deny. It's gonna be a storm. And
This is the end.
Honestly, the fact that they were able to do this at all with kind of 2 days of rehearsal and pretty much every Starkid member there'd ever been up until the point when it was performed, it truly has to be commended, the amount of effort that went into making this happen. That said, it absolutely does suffer from that lack of preparation. I do think Darren Criss seemed very much like he was kind of reading the script for the first time as he was saying it. You know, and when really the whole show kind of centres around the question of who is Harry Potter, basically, it kind of lessens the impact of that when Darren Criss is pretty much just being Darren Criss throughout it, reading Harry Potter's lines, if that makes any kind of sense at all. As it stands, pretty much everyone else was able to completely steal the show from him, which is you know, something of a shame. That said, it was definitely like a firestorm of emotion, and honestly it was a lot better than I originally thought it would be. I didn't, when I heard that they were going to be doing this, I didn't kind of think it was going to be good, purely because of the amount of preparation time that they were having. Number 9.
like that, 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 like that.
To be honest, I think this show suffered from just trying to do way too much. As much as I love seeing Clark get any time in the spotlight, I do think that the whole Neanderthal detour was unnecessary, as was the Chorn thing, despite the fact that I love that song. Honestly, overall, like with Me and My Dick, you could probably cut out a fairly substantial amount of the second act, and you would be left with an overall much tighter show than the one that we got. Having said that, the satire with Ducker especially was completely on point. The music sounds great, and I kind of like that it was a different style than the kind of generic Broadway sound that Starkid shows tend to have. Slightly less now that Jeff Blim has kind of taken up songwriting duties, but if you listen to their shows, there is a kind of generic Broadway type sound in it, and Firebringer was a very nice departure from that. It was really good to see Lauren and Meredith have time in the spotlight as opposed to just, playing odd and funny side characters. And, the puppeteering was fantastic, and the overall design was fantastic. I often say to people it feels like a post-Twisted show in terms of production value and a pre-Twisted show in terms of writing and, all of that. Number 8.
Our history is nothing more than what the losers settle for. So look alive and don't forget that it's not over. It's not over. No, it's not over yet.
So I think this is objectively the best of a very Potter trilogy in terms of just plot and consistency and how tightly it's all written. There are still moments that don't work.
Finally, I may have found someone powerful enough to survive coitus with the Centaurs.
But on the whole, and considering this was kind of the first show after a very Potter musical and Me and My Dick, both of whom, as I said, do have kind of issues with the quality of writing, especially. This is kind of like a turning point where Starkid truly began to properly pick things up in terms of writing and producing work intended to be seen by a mass audience, as opposed to just, friends, classmates, family. And, I'm not saying that the performances in the previous shows were bad, but I think this show also marked a turning point in terms of that as well, in terms of demonstrating their talents as professional performers rather than just college students mucking around. And as I said, I'm not saying that how they were before was necessarily a bad thing. It's just clear that this was a turning point in terms of, shifting the gears up a notch. Plus, Tyler Brunsman dancing everywhere. I mean, what else do you need in a show, really? Number 7.
And I'll admit, it's all in my head, but who says it can't be real? They may be far away, but I can safely say it doesn't change the way I feel. I wanna be a Starship Ranger, even if it might sound strange. Maybe now I'm not a ranger, but all of that is right about to change.
Honestly, just the puppeteering, the singing, Dylan somehow managing to puppeteer while singing. Honestly, I think this show does tend to be somewhat unfairly forgotten by people when they make these kinds of rankings. Yes, the story is simple and very cliche, but I love it. I do think a lot of it is down to personal bias because it was the first Starkid show that I actually saw all the way through. But I mean, it just makes me smile. It's a very happy show. It's moving, but nothing really bad happens in it. It's just a very nice, very happy show. And I think we occasionally just need something like that in our lives. Number 6.
We are gone to Oregon. It's the greatest family vacation. It'll bring us together. Couldn't think of nothing better. Heck, time for some family fun. trail to Oregon.
Honestly, the more I see this show, the more I like it. I liked it fine when I first watched it, but I didn't think it was anything hugely spectacular. Speaking from personal experience here, shows that rely on forced audience participation are a bitch. But this one, for some reason, just worked fantastically, and I do think it's partially because it's sort of controlled. In the end, it was clearly up to the actor in question to pick and choose what they could hear.
I think I heard crab hole.
And I mean, honestly, I do think that's a much better approach than just letting the audience have completely free reign. The songs, I love the songs in this. This is one of my favourite Starkid soundtracks, for sure. The story is surprisingly emotional. Joey deserves a medal for mostly remembering all those lines and various character changes and, you know, making it incredibly entertaining to watch, even when he didn't. Honestly, that will never not be funny. The only reason, really, it's not higher on the list is down to my own personal bias against toilet humour, and the ending is essentially one long toilet gag. Number 5.
He's a wiggly stick and a stiggly wiggly. Yeah, friendly when that makes you giggly. He's an underwater creature from out of this world. The best is when he went to all the boys and girls. He's a wiggly wig and a snuggle boo. And a wiggle, 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 wiggle with you.
I loved this show when I watched it. I've posted my review and my reactions to it, so you can watch those. And I think the villain was definitely one of the scariest Starkid villains. I mean, John Mattison, I did not know he had that in him. That was genuinely terrifying in moments. I thought the cast was all fantastic. I love the idea of Starkid kind of having its own extended universe again. I do like the idea of there being this kind of one setting that they can keep returning to if they want to. And poor Hatchetfield, I mean, it just can't get a break, can it? I love the soundtrack in this. Again, it's one of my favourites. Feast or Famine, especially, I think one of the best Starkid songs in general. As I said in my reaction and review, the one thing really that means it's not higher is the ending. But it grows on me the more times I watch it, but I don't think I'll ever kind of truly like it as an ending. Number 4.
Why not buy some?
I want to fly.
That's unrealistic.
I want to be a cat.
Fuck you.
Whistle while you swallow a spoonful of sugar and your dreams will come true upon a star.
I think, general consensus is that this show was another turning point for Starkid just with regards to quality. The songs, I think, are among the best that Starkid has ever written for any show, and they fit the general tone of the show absolutely perfectly. I mean, they do sound like a cross between something you'd hear from a 90s Disney Renaissance movie and Wicked. The incidental music I love. I mean, I can listen to the Golden Scarab theme that's on the soundtrack just 24/7 and never get tired of it. The only reason this isn't in the top 3 is because of Aladdin, the character. I think Jeff Blim did a fantastic job portraying it, and again, that whole kind of Jekyll and Hyde moment that he has, one of the creepiest things Starkid has ever done. But I've never liked Aladdin much as a character in the show, and it wasn't until that I heard that the Langs don't like him as a character in the Disney film that I kind of understood it. Because really, I think in order to successfully parody something, there has to be a level of underlying love for it. Even if you're kind of being very savage about it and ripping it apart, you kind of need to love what you're parodying in order for it to be truly successful. Because otherwise it just becomes needlessly mean-spirited. The sex pest aspect to Aladdin's character I just didn't think was needed. It was very funny, and Take Off Your Clothes is a great song, but honestly, I do think it would have been much funnier and Aladdin would have been better as a character if they'd solely kept him as the whole kind of I don't want to get an actual job type that he's kind of introduced as in I Steal Everything. And, the reason why he wants to marry the princess is because he thinks that as Sultan he wouldn't have to do any actual work, and when it turns out that actually he will, that's when he kind of freaks out and tries to get out of it. As it is, it just kind of feels like the Langs both kind of looked at him as a character and were just like, now, how can we make him into the absolute worst? And it just... I don't know. It's possibly because I do like Aladdin as a character in the original film, but, it is just one aspect of the show that has always kind of bothered me. Number 3...
And he's catching those crooks with his grappling hooks. He's here to save the day. It makes me wanna sing.
Holy musical Batman.
Whoa!
Holy musical Batman.
Oh.
So I am definitely not what you call a DC person. The most I ever venture into the DC fandom is through the Arrowverse shows, and really those are, mostly just The Flash, Legends of Tomorrow, and Supergirl. So, I don't have the background of reading DC comics, watching DC movies, loving the DC characters. I've been I'm much more of a Marvel person. Having said that, this show is absolutely hysterical. And, if there is one thing that Starkid shows are great at, they're parody shows. It's taking characters' kind of worst traits and just pushing them up to 11. And, as I said, with Twisted, there was a hint of mean-spiritedness about that. With this show, doing that actually just lends itself to, some great humour, not just in terms of DC, but also the superhero genre in general. And it is a surprisingly emotional story. And, I love the fact that, again, Joe Walker and Brian Holden got time in the spotlight as opposed to just being, funny side characters. And, the Batman versus Superman battle, best one ever put on film by miles. And I think, we can all agree with that.
Fuck you! I'm gonna kick your ass! Fuck you! I'm taking you down! Fuck you! You wanna be the man, you got to be the man. I'm gonna show you what it means to be a man.
Also, I do admit that the placement of it being this high is down to personal bias, because I watched the show when I was at a very, very low point in my life, and it definitely helped kind of get through that. So, I'll always have a soft spot for this show, Number 2.
Once a spy, always a spy, forever. The warmest hello to the coldest goodbye. Remember, spies never die. Spies are forever.
Again, my reaction is on my channel, so you can, see my thoughts on it there. But I honestly didn't know what to expect when my friend recommended it to me. The most I knew was
Spies are forever, it's a musical. It's about spies.
but it was so much better than I think I could possibly have thought it would be. Mary-Kate Wiles' voice is terrifyingly good. I think that's kind of the running thread throughout my reaction, is just me loving her voice. You know, there's a song mocking forced romantic subplots in things which my aromantic asexual ass absolutely loves. And oh my god, that ending. If you haven't seen my reaction, go and watch it, because I as with Black Friday, a lot more of my thoughts are there. Oh, I absolutely loved it. Number 1. Why am I doing a drum roll? Like, it's obvious what it is.
The last remaining story to tell. The guy who didn't like music.
Didn't like
I mean, what the fuck?
didn't like
He's the guy who didn't like music. Yeah, what the fuck?
I mean, just the concept for the show is just pure genius, because, I mean, how often can you say that you like a musical where the basic concept means that every single time someone starts singing, you get terrified? I mean, like, honestly, it does kind of amaze me that just no one thought of this before as a concept. I love the fact that all of the kind of more established Starkids were kind of playing out of their established character type. Corey was definitely the standout with regards to that. I mean, his last scene as Bill was just so emotional. I mean, his acting was just off the charts in this show. And I mean, everyone's acting was off the charts in this show. I think because the diegetic nature of the music meant that an unusual for Starkid emphasis had to be placed on acting rather than singing ability. And, you know, they all more than delivered on the songs as well. I think this is definitely the best Starkid show in terms of pacing and in terms of just how tightly the story is written. Again, I kind of mentioned this in my Black Friday review, but this show is definitely the best paced Starkid show there is. Just in terms of everything serving the plot. There aren't any characters who really outstay their welcome. There aren't any jokes that really outstay their welcome. Everything in the show serves its purpose and then is done. And that is the one aspect of Starkid's writing that I think they need to get a better handle on. But as I said, this definitely has the right idea, and I could honestly see this doing very well if it ever, you know, was produced on a larger scale. And also, I'm sorry, I know it's a very basic opinion to have, but Show-Stopping Number, I think, is the best Starkid song that they've ever written. Like, it's got everything they do absolutely perfectly, and Robert Mannion is just a gift to humanity doing that song. It's fantastic.
A show-stopping number, a real showstopper, an aria to rule them all. They'll throw us their money at full price admission. The world will come crumbling down. Hamilton, move over, your new competition's in town.
So yeah, that's my personal ranking for all the Starkid plus 2 Tin Can Brothers shows. Just a quick heads up, this will be my last video specifically to do with Starkid, at least for a while. And I mean, that's just because I'm very aware that although the Starkid videos are the best, you know, do the best on my channel, I don't want this to become an exclusively Starkid based channel. You know, I do want to talk about other shows, and other performers, and again, I've gained a lot of subscribers. Not a lot of subscribers. I've gained quite a few subscribers since posting my Black Friday reaction, and I just don't want you to think that I'm going to continue doing exclusively Starkid related content. They may pop up in other video topics that I do, but at least for a few weeks this will be my last Starkid related video, and starting next week I'm going to be talking about something else. So I just wanted to give you a heads up on that, so you can unsubscribe now if you really want to. Just as I said, I'm going to be trying to do weekly videos at least while this thing is going on. Where we live, we've officially all been put into lockdown now, so I have genuinely got nothing else to be doing apart from doing this. And I will hopefully see you next week, and please stay safe, listen to what medical experts are saying, and just keep your distance from people. Stay safe, stay well, and hopefully I will see you all next week. Bye.
What if tomorrow